So Joachim was a prophet? He was a just man. His soul repeated like an echo what God said to his soul, which was loved by God. When are we going to this mother, my lord? Asked Jabez with eager eyes. This evening. What will you say to her when you see her? I greet you, says Jabez, mother of the Saviour. Is that all right? Very good, confirms Jesus, caressing him. But are we going to the temple today? Asks Philip. We shall go there before leaving for Bethany. And you will stay here and be a good boy, will you not? Yes, my lord. The wife of Jonah, the caretaker of the olive grove, who has come near very quietly, says, Why don't you take him? The boy is anxious to come. Jesus stares at her without saying anything. The woman understands and says, I see. I should still have a little mantle of mark. I will look for it. And she runs away. Now I must stop there. That is Mark, the Mark we know of, the author of the Gospel according to St. Mark. This woman, his mother, is, as it says, the wife of Jonah, the caretaker of the olive grove. So now we know that St. Mark, the Gospel writer, has a father whose name is Jonah. And we know that St. Mark's parents are the caretakers of the olive grove, that is Gethsemane, because this chapter is set in Gethsemane. So there's a later episode, chapter in volume 5, where we're at the Passion Week phase, and I think I've read this during the Easter period, where this Mark, who's an adult, was his mother is saying she's going to find a little mantle of Mark that she still has, because Mark's now grown up. This Mark, it runs away when he sees the terrible scene of the apostles in scuffles with the men who've come from the Sanhedrin to arrest Jesus, along with Judas Iscariot, and Jesus is arrested. So Mark runs away. Well, in the Gospel according to St. Mark, there's a reference to a young man who runs rapidly, and his mantle is lost. So he runs out stark naked out of the, no doubt with a basic cloth around him. He goes out of the garden. That's what he was doing there. He was the son of the caretakers of the Garden of Gethsemane. So so Mark is not some person who suddenly wrote a gospel one day. He was known to Jesus and the apostles. He wasn't an apostle himself, but he was in the apostolic circle, if I can put it that way. He was well positioned to write a gospel. Partly from eyewitness testimony, especially that part relating to the Garden of Gethsemane in his gospel, but also from speaking to the Blessed Mother, speaking to the apostles. So I find that a wonderful insight into the Gospel of Mark. Otherwise we know next to nothing about St. Mark. So continuing. Jabez pulls John's sleeve. Will the teachers be severe? Oh no, don't be afraid. In any case, it's not today. In a few days' time with his mother, you'll be more learned than a doctor. John comforts him. See, what Jabez is worried about there is he's going to have his, what we might call today, his bar mitzvah. He's going to become a son of the law, and he's going to be tested. So he needs to know answers to the kinds of questions that will be asked. And St. John is reassuring him, don't worry, the Blessed Virgin is going to teach you. As I've said before in another video, she was the teacher of Jesus and his cousins, James, Joseph, Judas and Simon. And so she's an expert in the law. It's worth knowing, because we don't know that from the Gospels, but she's an expert in the law. So continuing. The others hear and smile at Jabez's concern. But who will present him as if he were his father? Asks Matthew. Of course I will, unless the master wishes to present him, says Peter. Again, I'm interrupting because Peter is basically going to become the adopted father of Jabez, aka Marjam. And this leads to a bit of tension between Jesus and Peter. Jesus has to remind Peter he's got to put the mission and his role as head of the church first, even though he longs to be, fatherly towards Marjam or Jabez. In fact, he does, effectively. And so that is resolved, but we see that Peter had been desperate for a son, and now he gets one by this orphan being given to him. And Peter's wife, who's called Porphyry, she is delighted as well, because she now has a child. And so Marjam stays with her when the apostles are going around on mission with Jesus. But that's not happened yet. I don't think Jabez has been given as an adoptive son to Simon at this stage, because Jesus has not yet warned Simon that he's got to be careful not to become too attached in a normal fatherly way to Jabez. So I'll continue. So, just to repeat, when Matthew asks who will present him, and Peter says, of course I will, unless the master wishes to present him. And Jesus says, no, Simon, I will not present him. I leave that honour to you. Thank you, master. But you will be there too. Certainly, we shall all be there. He is our boy. Mary of Jonah comes back with a dark violet mantle, which is still good. But what a shade. She says so herself. Mark never wanted to wear it because he did not like its shade. And I'll just pause there for a moment, because we see now the other parent of St. Mark, the author of the Gospel, is called Mary. So she said that Mark never wanted to wear this mantle because he did not like its shade. No wonder, it is vile. And poor Jabez, with his olive complexion, looks ghastly in the violent violet shade. But he cannot see himself, and he is therefore happy to have the mantle in which he can drape himself like an adult. The meal is ready, master. The woman has taken the lamb off the spit just now. Let us go then. And going down from the place where they were, they go into the large kitchen for their meal.